Dr. Anthony Fauci spoke to the Today Show just this morning on the latest guidance on double masking and the pace of the vaccine rollout. Let's listen to some of that.
Are you frustrated at the pace of this? Do we need to pick it up?
Well, I think it is going to be picked up, Savannah, because if you look at what's going to happen as we get into March and April, the number of available doses will allow for much more of a mass vaccination approach, which is really much more accelerated than what you're seeing now. If you compare now to what we were doing just literally a month ago, the escalation has really been considerable. If you look at the projection, I would imagine by the time we get to April, that will be what I would call, for better wording, open season, namely virtually everybody and anybody in any category could start to get vaccinated. The sobering news is that it does spread more rapidly. We know that from the UK experience. The uplifting news is that the vaccines that we now have, the Moderna and the Pfizer, and very likely the ones that will be coming online soon, seem to do well against this UK variant. The CDC is saying that at minimum, wear a mask, okay? This is what they're saying. Make sure you wear a mask. So you wear a mask. Then you want it to fit better. So one of the ways you could do it, if you would like to, is put a cloth mask over, which actually here and here and here, where you could get leakage in, is much better contained. If I'm vaccinated and my daughter who lives in Boston comes home and she's vaccinated, can we get much more of this pulling back on restrictions and saying we can sit down together without a mask, we can give each other a hug? And the answer ultimately is going to be yes with that.
But if grandma's vaccinated but grandkid isn't?
Yeah, then you got to be careful, because grandma could still get virus in her nasopharynx, even though the vaccine is preventing her from getting physically ill. She still could have virus in her nasopharynx. And that's the reason why we say until we have the overwhelming majority of people vaccinated and the level of virus is very low, when you're vaccinated, it would be prudent to wear a mask.
A lot to talk about this morning. Let's get right to it with Dr. Annalee Baker. She's an assistant professor of emergency medicine and critical care based in New York. Doctor, good to have you with us. Let's start with some positive news. New infections have dropped significantly from the record highs we saw over the holidays. We're also seeing the vaccine rollout start to gain some more momentum. The last year, we've often heard the expression turning the corner. It means different things to different people. In your mind, when do you think we can say we've turned the corner?
Well, thank you for having me, Joe. A quick correction, I am based in South Florida, but I do work remotely in New York. So I've seen both sides. I've seen all kinds of things, and I've certainly heard that phrase many times. I'm very cautious about using it myself because there are so many factors at play. We are definitely seeing some encouraging signs. We've improved our ability to vaccinate. We're getting those numbers up to 1.5 million a day, as you said, which is much better than we were doing before. It's very encouraging to see these community pharmacies getting involved in the vaccination efforts as well, but the variants are going to complicate things. We've got a couple things working for us in terms of, with the warmer weather and spending more time outdoors. We certainly expect a little bit less transmission on that front, but it can be really hard to tell exactly when we're going to turn that corner per se, when all of those factors are interacting with one another.
All right, and apologies for that. Thank you for the correction. Let's talk more about the new variants here in the U.S. Scientists are now predicting that strain that was first found in the U.K., which is more contagious, will soon be the dominant strain worldwide. How concerning is that to you?
It is concerning. In the United States, across the pandemic for the last year, we have really not been doing a great job of sequencing in general. Most of us who are practicing physicians have pretty much no idea which strain we're dealing with on a given patient or on a day-to-day basis. So we're starting to improve our sequencing efforts in the United States, and we're already seeing here in South Florida up to 5% of this UK variant. So I do think in the coming 4 to 6 weeks, we're going to see that number go up and up. But the good news is that it does appear that the vaccines are fairly effective against the UK variant. So that's still encouraging. Doesn't mean we can let down our guard. As you heard, we definitely need to keep masking up because that variant is already here. So that cat is out of the bag. The sooner we can get more people vaccinated and the more we can continue with mitigation measures, the better chance we have of getting out of this and getting back to normal.
And then finally, the CDC is now saying people who have been fully vaccinated, which means 2 shots, don't need to quarantine if they've been exposed to the virus. Explain the reasoning here.
You know, this is an interesting one. One of the things that initially when all this data came out, we were primarily looking at the vaccine's ability to prevent hospitalizations, deaths, severe disease. Those are obviously the outcomes that we care about. What has not been so clear is whether the vaccines have can actually decrease transmission and actually prevent transmission. This data out of Israel is kind of where I think these guidelines are based. We have really great information from Israel, which is actually very positive, that shows that the vaccines not only prevent severe illness and death, but also prevent transmission to a striking degree. So I would encourage those who are vaccinated to continue with all of the same mitigation efforts, as you said. But the CDC is adjusting their quarantine guidance, as you mentioned, and I think that's appropriate.
All right. Dr. Annalee Baker, thank you so much.
Prosecutors in Fulton County are launching a criminal